everyone, this is Jade from Shut Up and Rock On, and I am sitting here with the ever so legendary Dee Snider. Dee, how are you doing today?
Feeling very legendary today, Jade. Nice to meet you, finally.
Yes, after all this time, I've been talking to Dee on Twitter for probably like a year. I saw you at the Rock Carnival last year,
Yes.
and I know that was a whole fiasco that it ended up being.
Yeah, the whole lawsuit and everything like that. It's a shame to have, and it was a rainy night, whatever, but there was die-hard, enthusiastic people, and I actually thought we had sort of said maybe we'd meet at that point, but we didn't. So
Yeah.
we're meeting now. I'm
I
glad.
don't know why we didn't. It was just, I don't know.
Where do you live?
I live in Rochester, New York.
What are you doing here?
I go everywhere to do this.
True rock fan. Dad, if you're listening, nice job, Dad. Nice job.
Yeah, I know. I'm here with my friends, and I was at Chicago Open Air last week, and I know you're playing Chicago tomorrow, right?
Yep.
Yep, Acadia Theater. So let's talk about you. Who influenced you, even though I kind of know? You should still say it.
Well, there's been a lot of people influenced me, and whether it was the Beatles initially, and then Paul Revere and the Raiders, Mark Lindsay, and then they were like leaned towards being a heavier band. One of the early. Some people say that Paul Revere and the Raiders were sort of the precursor to what became heavy metal. Believe it or not, a lot of heavy bands who were older guys were Paul Revere and the Raiders fans, as opposed to Monkees fans. Anyway, and then suddenly heaviness started, and bands like Mountain and Cream and Blue Cheer and Led Zeppelin and Deep Purple and Black Sabbath, and it started, and I was, and I just liked. I didn't like the hippie stuff. I just liked. This stuff was hard. They called it
in your face.
Yeah, they called it hard rock. They called it hard rock, and it wasn't called heavy metal at first. But that's what I liked. So I always tell people that I helped destroy the Woodstock Nation.
You did.
And you're welcome.
And this kind of proves that I know a little bit too much about you. But didn't you miss when the Beatles were on TV and like the world changed? Didn't you miss seeing them?
Yeah, my father, a very strict father, cop. Military guy, and Mom was a church lady, and they banned television in our house for a while, and so because they wanted us to like talk and read and make puzzles and build model airplanes.
Do the ideal family like things in the 60s.
Like enter the stupid TV. This is the '60s, and the Beatles were on, and I missed it, but that just shows the impact. Where just the aftershock, going to school the next day, and just everyone was talking, and I didn't even have to see it, just to hear the excitement in their voices, and I saw it through their excitement. I said, I got to do this. I didn't even know what it was. I said, I have to do this. Be a Beatle. I'm going to be a Beatle.
Yeah. So is it Beatles or Rolling Stones? Because I know people usually toss up between those two, and Rolling Stones a little heavier, and Beatles are a little not so heavy. So which one did you like more?
Well, I was more of a Beatles guy. I liked the Rolling Stones, and interesting conversation with the late Lemmy Kilmister of Motorhead, who, the dude was there. He roadied for Jimi Hendrix. He saw the Beatles at the Cavern Club. Yeah. He saw the Rolling Stones at the Marquee Club, and so he said, "I'll do a little Lemmy." He goes, "People always ask me who was a better band, the Beatles or the Rolling Stones. The Rolling Stones sucked. The Beatles crush them." He said the Beatles were just like the Stones are like the best Rolling Stones in the world. They can, if they try to do something else, they're not very good. But the Beatles, not only were great musicians, a great band, they were funny. He said they were great entertainers.
They seem like it.
Yeah, the Beatles. Look at you, 19 years old. She knows all this stuff. Very strange.
Thanks.
What kind of guys do you date? Like weird dudes?
We'll talk about that off the record.
She doesn't date, Dad.
Yeah, no. My dad will listen to this. So you joined Twisted Sister in like '76. Were you in bands prior to that, or was that like your first like real commitment band?
The minute I heard about the Beatles, I started bands.
Okay.
They were very primitive, but one guy had a guitar, and we just went and we
make noise.
Yeah, Snider Spiders. That was my first band.
Oh.
And then the guys did because I wanted to be like a Beatle, so I was a Spider. But and then I always had bands. So since 3rd or 4th grade. So it's just a matter of I can't remember a time when, from the time I discovered the Beatles, that I didn't have a band, that I could at least say, yeah, we're a band. We may not even practice, but we had a name,
but you were a band.
And we hung out, and we're a band.
You had the mystique of a band.
Yes, mystique of a band.
And
yes.
So what makes you think, okay, this band, when you joined Twisted Sister, this is the one that I'm really going to like put all my effort into, like this is the one?
I put my effort into every band I ever did. And along the way, I made difficult decisions to leave bands and friends for a career move, to move to another band that was going to get me to where I was going. When I got asked to join Twisted and I saw those guys, I just said, this is I just saw it. I knew it was the band. I knew it was a band, and I had also learned, at that point I was 20, and I had learned enough I made enough mistakes that, I'm not saying I never made another mistake, I did, but I knew, like, okay, that was all practice. These were all I was learning here. Now I've got to put what I've learned to use, and this is the band I got to go the distance with.
And when Twisted Sister was happening in the club days in the late 70s and all that good stuff, you guys did a lot of talking. Like, sometimes you would barely even perform music because you're always saying some stuff, and you did that great death to disco chant craziness. What made you want to, like, do that?
We talked a lot on stage, partially because we had to do 4 or 5 sets a night.
Yeah, you were.
So it was like you're doing, 40, 4 50-minute sets, and it was like a lot of music.
You were a cover band at that point,
Cover band, and it just made it more interesting. You're playing the same songs over and over and over. And Suzette, who's been with me, my wife, forever, she's always said my favorite thing about your shows was when you didn't play, the talking in between. And you'll see it tonight, and it's what led to my radio career and all the things I've done. I've developed a personality beyond the music that, I'm an entertainer.
Speaking of things that you've done, your podcast, Snyder Comments, was one of my very favorites. The first episode with Rudy Sarzo and Sebastian Bach is so funny. And it's just you 3 guys just talking. And it's just effortless.
Yeah.
For you especially, because you have that kind of personality, I guess.
Yeah.
You're from New York City.
I've done radio for 25 years now, and I've gotten good at being a conversationalist, and that's the trick, Jade, is to make it a conversation. You're doing that right now.
Yay.
But don't worry so much about the questions. I know you're learning. You're learning.
Point.
I would have done the same thing at 19. I'm teaching here. I'm teaching
Thank
here, but it's just sort of like make it a conversation. Even when I would do interviews, I did morning radio for 3 years, talk radio, and like when I brought in an interview, I would I'd start the interview with whatever we were talking about before. So if we were talking about a refrigerator that had a computer on it, and all of a sudden, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger came on the phone. Hey, Arnold, what do you think of that refrigerator with the computer on it? Because I think it's, like, totally weird. Go, well,
Spontaneity.
I don't know. I think the computer's a good thing. In my house, we have a computer. And, and all of a sudden, like, it went from being, they just got disarmed. I disarmed them by asking them something completely unrelated. All they were asking is, how's the movie? How's the career? What's it like to be Tom Cruise? Right. It became a conversation. And then I get to those questions that people have. Yeah, but you know what? I stole that from Howard Stern anyway, so I learned a lot about doing radio from Howard.
Very nice. And because Twisted Sister and the phrase SMF are basically synonymous, where does SMF even come from?
SMF, it just happened. It's sort of a thing that we were called, and people like us were called. We were called sick mother effers. And it was a derogatory term. And then one day I just on stage said, you know what? They call us sick mother effers. And I so that means because we're not like them. And I look at them and I don't want to be like them. Do you want to be like them? The crowd's like, no. I said, so if that's what they want to call us, we're going to take it as we'll make it a thing like we're proud. So we're sick mother effers. And it just became the SMFs, and then it became the fans, the SMFs. So it really was a negative that we turned to a positive. Like when people, we used to play in the beginning, and we'd be out there, we were so weird, and there'd be some guy, always be somebody starting and giving us a finger. And I would say, hey, look, that a-hole's giving us the, I don't know what kind of radio we're on. Well, that a-hole's giving us the Twisted Sister. They're giving us the Twisted Sister salute. And you'd be like, fuck you. And I go, everybody give us the Twisted Sister salute.
It was a unification kind of thing.
Suddenly so here's one guy with his middle finger. Suddenly 1,000 people got their fingers in the air, and the guy's standing there, and now he's saluting the band, and he's like, and you see him,
I didn't mean to do that.
Right, exactly. It's like, oh, I didn't want to do that. Like everybody's got their fingers now. Now I'm not. So it's a way of just sort of saying, whatever you're going to throw at us, we're going to just turn it around in you and make it a positive thing. So fuck you.
Very nice. Very well put as well. And tell me about recording Under the Blade. Was that the first? That was the first record you like ever recorded, even as you? Like, so what was it like going into the studio and doing that whole process?
With Under the Blade, it was really coming, we had been playing the bars for a long time. We had these songs that we'd been playing in the bars for a long time. So it was really just a matter of going and laying down the stuff we had been playing. It was just like, okay, we know these songs. It wasn't, every other album subsequently was like, all right, I wrote these songs for You Can't Stop Rock and Roll. Let's go rehearse these songs. But here, every song on Under the Blade was just what we played, and we just went literally into a barn with a mobile unit and recorded it, and it was very, very live and very, it was very real.
And Twisted Sister's first like 4 or 5 records are like the most iconic, obviously, because there are only a couple after that. And which one is your favorite?
People do ask me that, and yes, and much to people's chagrin, hardcore fans, You Can't Stop Rock and Roll.
Okay.
Because, and I was on that metal show, and the audience voted, and they all said Under the Blade because of hardcore.
That episode,
yeah,
yes.
But to me, I looked forward to the day where I have a chance to create in the studio and write new material, and that was not, I don't know, coming from the bars. That was the first time we're like, okay, we are a recording band, and we're getting to record this music for this album that I've created, because this is how I'm feeling now. It wasn't from 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Like Under the Blade, that song had to be 8 years old by the time we recorded it, 6 or 7. And so I was, to me, that was my favorite. It was like my favorite record.
And you, not only do you do the music thing, you do the Strange Land and all that good stuff. So tell me about what made you want to start doing that movie side of things.
I wrote the Twisted Sister videos. And doing that was interesting because I had these ideas, and I told the director, Marty Callner, and they brought him to life.
Yeah,
Marty's brilliant.
He's the best.
And he's brilliant, still a good friend to this day. I just saw him the other day. And so Marty, and and it came to life. And I was like, wow, I had this crazy idea, and he's making it happen. So then and then when I did Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and I was on the set with Pee-wee and Tim Burton, and I saw the insanity of a Hollywood set, saying, again, somebody just wrote down craziness. Godzilla, the security's chasing Pee-wee, and he crashes into Twisted Sister shooting a rock video with Godzilla in Santa's sled. What kind of crazy shit is that? And then all of a sudden, there it was. So after I experienced that, I said, I got to start writing movies. And I started writing, and I've been doing it ever since.
And I know I'm going to have to let you go pretty soon, so tell me, now Twisted Sister is since over, and you just released a solo album not too long ago. Tell me about We Are the Ones.
We Are the Ones is still a work in progress. I mean, people, they tour records for a couple of years now, and we, it came out in November. It was toward the end of the year and the end of Twisted, and I sort of went into like we built a house on the Caribbean, my wife and I just sort of went into like
I love it.
yeah, and we were just like, after Twisted, I went there in Belize, and I was just on the beach, and I was like, I got to chill for a while. So now after I came out of that, was pulled out of it by Danny, my stand-in, and now we're getting back to playing and performing, and it's really a work in progress. The band's coming together. I'm sort of finding myself now, Dee Snider, as opposed to Twisted Sister, and it's great to have new music and have and have a new band and be able to show people something new that's not, I love my old stuff, but it's nice to play them something that's 3 months old, not 30 years old.
You're right.
Yeah.
And so what are you up to now? You're out playing shows. We're at Loud-n-Lima right now in Lima, Ohio. So you're playing here. You have a couple more dates that you just announced too. You're doing like a little tour.
Yeah, Danny keeps booking shows, and that's good because that's important. So we're going to Chicago, and I'm going over to Germany, and we come back, go to Colorado. It's kind of it's all over the map, and then I've got some shows in the Northeast, November, and
I'm coming
so.
To see you.
Oh, you are?
Yes.
Good. Okay. Is Dad coming?
I'll make him.
Okay. And it must be like you, Danny, raising the kids on his children are like just. They're there. They're like old school. Matter of fact, think you want to meet his son.
Well, there you go.
I think it'd be a good pair. He's got a beautiful son. How old is he?
19.
I'm 19.
19, and he loves all this old stuff.
Interesting.
And he's like old school. He's at the Foreigner concert tonight. And he's like
Oh, the
old school.
In
Last night.
in
Last
Long
night.
Beach? Yeah,
Yeah.
my friends were there.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
So he's all old school stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna make that match.
We're going to do that.
Match-
No, no, matchmaker Dee
No,
Snider.
this kid's beautiful. This kid's beautiful. Perfect.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And before you go, where can we follow you to keep up with all things Dee Snider?
I don't know. I'm on
internet?
Instagram, on the internet.
On the Facebook?
Yeah,
on Twitter?
Facebook, Twitter. Twitter I handle, Instagram I handle, and my website and Facebook are run by people for me, but they're mine, so it's up there. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.